There was a dispensation. Okay, we have 7 dispensations of time. Where we are now is the dispensation of grace. That's the church age. The next dispensation coming after this is the dispensation of the kingdom. When we get there, Jesus will be on earth physically, ruling this earth from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. The dispensation before us, the church age, the dispensation of grace, is the dispensation of the law. It lasted for 2,000 years. It was Moses and his teachings and then the prophets. Before Moses' dispensation, there was the dispensation of promise. The dispensation of promise is during the time of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There was no 10 commandments. And in those days, you get justification by faith, just like we get it now. There was no Levitical priesthood. Because of those who tell you that the tithing is part of the Old Testament. They tithed then because their dispensation, that dispensation of promise, was when God was talking about everything that will happen when Christ comes. So he gave them 7 elements that will enable them begin to benefit. For example, you notice Melchizedek did not serve Abraham the meat that the Levites will serve. He gave him communion. He gave him bread and wine. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Communion did not start with Jesus. In the dispensation of promise, all the priests at that time were both kings and priests, like Melchizedek. Before that dispensation, we had the dispensation of human government when God introduced this political system on earth. That political system was introduced after Noah's flood. Because violence, bloodshed, and all of those was part of what destroyed Noah's world and the explosion of immorality. So God now brought a new law. Anybody that kills, sheds human blood, by man shall his blood be shed. So he now instituted human government to enforce law and order. And from the flood, Genesis chapter 9, we started having the rise of kingdoms. Nimrod, and then the Egyptian empire, Syrian empire, Babylonian empire, and all those empires, they will be completely erased from the earth. If you have read the story of Daniel, where there is a small stone cut out by no human hand, he hid these kingdoms at the foot and granted them. This human kingdom, what is your democracy and all this nonsense that is going on, will be completely wiped. Many politicians will be in hell. Go and read and see where most of the kings of the earth are taken. And where they are taken is where Lucifer will later join. It's all in your Bible, everything I'm telling you. I don't know how you read that book, what you see with it in it. Before the dispensation of human government, there was no government. God created man. What we had was the dispensation of conscience. Between the time man has eaten the forbidden fruit, he now has knowledge of good and evil. Conscience woke up. If you want to know, before that dispensation, there was a dispensation of innocence. So we started with the dispensation of innocence. And it lasted only 7 years. And the devil thwarted it. It should have lasted at least 1,000 or 2,000 years. Or of course, far more than that. But the devil introduced the knowledge of good and evil by luring Eve to go and eat the fruit. So the dispensation of innocence was cut short. And the dispensation of conscience stepped in, where we now know. And if you want to know the difference between the dispensation of innocence and the dispensation of conscience, look at a baby. That's a dispensation of innocence. Even when a baby slaps you, he will smile at you because she's not trying to harm you. She's playing. Even if she puts her hand in your eyes, she's not trying. There is no intention to do anything wrong. And that's why you see them running around naked. That's how Adam and Eve were. And they were not ashamed. There's nothing like looking at a lady, a naked woman, and say, wow, what is that I'm seeing? No, we are just clean like angels. Or you look at somebody's watch, you want to now. Nothing like that. But if you want to know the difference between the dispensation of innocence and the dispensation of conscience, watch what happened to you when your own eyes started opening. Especially as you became a teenager. The little girl, you were a boy, the little girl you used to play with as children, nothing. She's now getting to puberty. You too, you now look at her, wow. You think it's just boys? The girls too. Their own is worse. Long before then, sometime around the age of 6, 7, little children have started knowing evil. Can lie, can do all kinds of things, steal. So before the dispensation of innocence, that is Adam in his pure state and Eve, no evil on earth. There was a dispensation of angels. When angels ruled the universe, something went wrong with their order. One of the order rebelled against God. And it is to now solve that problem, God brought his own children into the situation and created a being that will be placed in an order higher than the order of angels. And that is how he introduced man. Since I touched that Genesis 2, I need to let you know, before Adam showed up, angels ruled the universe. They have been making an attempt to recapture this place. So the fall of man was their first re-entry. Later again, they wanted to have children and populate the earth. They started sleeping with daughters of men. And so you can now understand why God wiped everything. That he preserved Noah was purely because he was still a pure human breed, apart from the fact that he was a righteous man. But we found out that in the days of Nimrod, after the flood, the giants reappeared. All those giants that they produced before the flood. So questions have been raised. Where did they come from? Some people said the third son of Noah, the one that is called Ham, that the girl he married was from the lineage that would have been destroyed. And God saved the girl because he was his wife. But the jinn has entered the boat. And so it was from his lineage. Immediately after the flood, he started giving birth. One of his sons, called Canaan, every child he gives birth to is mutated. They will have 6 fingers, 6 toes, and they are giants. Some of them will be up to 9 feet. Some will be up to 12 feet, some 13 feet tall. And the same wickedness that they were doing before reappeared. And that boy was the one that went to look at his father's nakedness. But not all his children. He had other children that came out of him that were normal. So Noah cursed that particular one that carried the gene. His name is Canaan. So later you see that the same way God wiped the world with flood, he commissioned the children of Israel to go and wipe the descendants of the Canaanites. They have formed 7 nations. So they will tell you, but there were times the children of Israel would go to battle and God will ask them, wipe every living thing. These are descendants, Nephilims, descendants of fallen angels, not normal human beings. Or the what you call war convention, the one they use all over the world today. You don't bomb civilians, you don't kill women, you don't kill children, you don't do all that. It's from the Bible. If you want, I'll read it for you. It's the Bible that taught these ethics. including the jurisprudence and all these laws you are using to create, whether it's democracy, to create civil society. Thou shalt not kill. All of this, they are all biblical laws, including the laws of marriage and all that, including your civil laws. So how come there was an exception? 7 nations, those ones God will say, wipe everything, both women and children. They are not normal human beings. God does not want Lucifer to ever repopulate the earth. So what brought me there is that dispensation of angels. A lot of us start our understanding of the Bible from man, the introduction of human beings down to where we are. We forget that history began before man. And the rebellion that occurred there led to chaos, confusion, and the throwing down of Lucifer led to flooding and destruction on the earth. Lord.